Coming up on today's show, we're going to check out ESPN's latest 3-round mock draft, see who they had the Browns selecting. I'll give you my analysis on those picks. Plus, Deshaun Watson spoke to the Cleveland media this week, and he gave some pretty fire-me-up type of quotes. Now, before we get to any of all that, Jack Sperry, the clown who runs our Steelers channel here at Chat Sports, had some pretty harsh words for the Browns. He said, "The Steelers will finish ahead of the Browns. That is a fact with a capital F. Probably sweep them too." If that pissed you off a little bit and you hate the Steelers, then let's beat them in subscribers this month, please. We are just barely behind them in the month of April, so let's bury them in subs like we always do here at the Browns Report by clicking onto that sub button. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Let's take a look at ESPN's brand new 3-round mock draft. Also, do you guys like the new setup? We're experimenting, no big, headset on, but just a little lapel mic. So, anywho, let's check out ESPN's new 3-round mock draft. Now, Mel Kiper and Todd McShay alternated picks for this mock draft, and the cowards finally went beyond round 1 and 2 so we could see who they think the Browns could end up picking in round 3. And at pick 74, they went defensive tackle from Florida, Gervon Dexter. He measured in at the combine 6'5", 310 pounds. That is way taller and larger than any of Andrew Berry's interior defensive linemen like Perion Winfrey, Jordan Elliott, or Tommy Togiai selections. He was a 2-year starter for the Gators and a really good run stopper. And right now it feels like there needs to be some extra depth added to that interior defensive line. Now here's what Todd McShay said on the pick for the Browns. "I'm wasting no time once the Browns are finally on the clock and addressing the roster's biggest hole. It's a thin defensive tackle class, but Dexter gives them depth up the middle and some interior pass rushing upside thanks to his speed." Now, I know that you think 300 pounds, there's no way he can get after the quarterback. He's not your just prototypical nose tackle. He actually played a lot of 3 technique in Florida. 55 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks for the Gators last season. Now, after what happened with Perion Winfrey and his misdemeanor assault charge, I can't rely on number 97 moving forward. I definitely can't bank on Togiai, and I think Elliott is out of Cleveland the moment his rookie contract is up, so they got to start planting some roots and finding some seeds for that interior defensive line, because you just can't build together a defensive line to last for years to come through free agency or trades. You got to hit on some of your draft picks, and so for the Browns, they need to hit on a defensive lineman this year that might not have to have a huge role in 2023, but who's going to start alongside Dalvin Tomlinson next season if Winfrey's not the guy with his off-the-field issues and Elliott and Togiai are off this roster? Moving on to our next 3rd-round mock draft pick, this is Henry To'oTo'o. So, 6'1", 227 pounds. He was a 4-year starter in the SEC, started off at Tennessee, and then transferred to Alabama. 2-time first-team All-SEC, and also a freshman All-American. He was extremely productive at Alabama, but right now, I don't really know a good reason why, he's sort of being knocked as a 3rd or 4th-round draft pick. When you look at his stats, it doesn't look like a 3rd or 4th-round guy. Now, Todd McShay also made this selection for the Browns, and he said this: "I like To'oTo'o's speed at the 2nd level, and I think his range would boost a run defense that got knocked for 4.7 yards per carry last season, 8th worst in the NFL." Now, To'oTo'o is a 4-year starter, like I said, so loads of experience and tons of tape. His last 2 seasons solely in Tuscaloosa, 205 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, and 6.5 sacks. Like I said, those are extremely productive numbers, and not at some school in the SWAC, right? We're talking about Alabama, the clubhouse leader in the SEC. Then I look at this Browns linebacker room, and this has been a very quiet but growing concern for the future. JOK, I'm a big fan of his, but through 2 seasons, he has not shown me that he can play a full season. Anthony Walker and Taki are both on 1-year contracts, And then Jacob Phillips is a free agent next season. And that leaves what? Tony Fields, Jordan Kunaszyk? Especially when you take into account that this linebacker room was decimated last year. Anthony Walker missed 14 games. Jacob Phillips missed 10. JOK missed 6. Taki missed 5. So I don't think we can all definitively say that 3 of these 4 guys are going to be 100% come week 1. As much as we love to believe that the magical injury fairies come out in the summer and make everyone 100%, that's usually not the case. So with that being said, inside linebacker might be the only position in this year's draft where I go, maybe it's okay to deviate from my draft strategy of best player available pretty much every time outside of round 1, because you don't have a surefire 3 starters come week 1. I mean, Anthony Walker is working back from a torn quad, okay? Taki's coming off a torn ACL in December. Like, these guys might not start the year off ready to roll week 1. They very well could be pupless guys, sort of like Jack Conklin was last season. So if you need to add some extra bodies, I'm okay if you feel like maybe it's a bit of a reach, but we need to have linebackers for this roster in 2023. Now, speaking of Henry To'oTo'o, quick story here. Even producer Rolly doesn't know this. So Henry To'oTo'o sat behind me in a geography class during my senior year in college at Tennessee. He was a freshman at the time, fall 2019. We were garbage at football, but he was our Polynesian prince. He was the only good thing Tennessee football had going for them. Of course, he transferred to Alabama, so we all ended up hating him. But he embarrassed me pretty bad one time because it was the day of a big exam in this geography class, and he tapped me on the back, tapped me on the shoulder right from behind, and I was like, I know To'oTo'o has sat behind me the whole year. So I'm like, this is my one shining moment. Like, he is asking to copy off of me, and I will oblige. I will do whatever is necessary to make sure he is not academically ineligible for this Saturday's game. Taps me on the shoulder, and he goes, hey, dude. And I'm like, what's up? And he goes, you know your shirt's inside out. And that was really embarrassing to have the biggest man on campus at the time tell me my shirt was inside out. Took a peek down, and sure enough, I had a nice striped polo, as I always do, and tag was out, and I was like, yep. That is inside out. So that's my one interaction with Henry To'oTo'o. If he comes to Cleveland, would love to talk about it with him and hopefully have my shirt on correctly. So recapping ESPN's 3-round mock draft, which only had 2 picks for the Browns. They went Gervon Dexter, defensive tackle out of Florida, and then Henry To'oTo'o out of Alabama. Grade these picks, A, B, C, D, or F. I think Henry To'oTo'o is going to be a sneaky good pick in round 3. I remember seeing mock drafts last year, like way too early ones, that thought he might leave Alabama after his first season in Alabama, 3rd year, in college football, and he was getting some round 1 buzz. So I'm going to give this a solid B+. You're not finding maybe any surefire day 1 starters, but I'm going to give it a solid B+. Next up on the show, let's check out the stories we are getting as Browns players have reported to Berea. We've got some off-season workouts, all voluntary, and we've got some interesting quotes to look at from Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. So, some background information here. The Browns began their first phase of voluntary workouts earlier this week. It's not quite OTAs. Sessions are limited to just like meetings, film, training, conditioning, and along with rehab for those players who need it. Now, the early indications are great attendance. Kevin Stefanski did not get into any sort of detail of who was or was not there. It's all voluntary, but a lot of the big names are there right now. So some quick takeaways I had from the buzz that came out of the first day when they spoke to the media. Greg Newsome was not happy with the trade rumors, and I might be a fraction responsible for that because we definitely talked about it on the show. But that definitely goes to show the Browns did not have that whole Greg Newsome requesting a trade story to flush out a leak. What an awful way to flush out a leak and upset one of your star players in the process. But I also love Greg Newsome even more because he is a Cleveland Brown through and through, and he wants to be in Cleveland his entire career, it sounds like. Next takeaway I had, Myles Garrett announced he retired from the Pro Bowls. He is no longer going back, he said. He said that the shoulder injury he suffered from the car crash is actually rehabbing quite nicely. It's the toe injury he suffered during the Pro Bowl that's nagging him a little bit. So he's not worried about it. It's only April. I'd prefer that it wasn't nagging him, but hey, what can you do? Amari Cooper made an announcement. He got off-season surgery from a doctor in Philadelphia, a core muscle surgery he suffered late last season. Guy played through it, and it really made you wonder, with him playing through that injury, I can't wait to see a healthy Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson connection to start this season. No update on Perrion Winfrey. They asked Stefanski about that. He was pretty Kevin Stefanski-esque. He did not give any hard details or anything, juicy to grab onto. And the fifth and final takeaway we'll spend more time on is Deshaun Watson spoke to the media, gave some great quotes, and one thing that you can definitely take away from it is expect wins in 2023. Here's what Watson said when asked about his 2023 goals. I want to see a lot of wins. I see us having an opportunity to get in the playoffs, and once we get into that and the big dance, then anything can happen. Now, before we look at some other quotes here, the NFL draft, like I said, is just around the corner. So get your own Cleveland Browns NFL draft hats before supplies run out when you use our exclusive link, chatsports.com/BrownsHat. Now, I'm going to say it for everyone in Berea that doesn't want to say it because you don't want to jinx anything, but playoffs, I don't think, are the expectations for this team. It has to be a playoff win. This team, simply put, has too much too much talent, too much draft investment, and too much financial investment. The Browns have spent more money, it seems like, than any other team has the last couple of seasons. A big part of it's $230 million to Deshaun Watson, but still, they have gotten stars like Amari Cooper. They have nailed draft picks like Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb. They gave big extensions out to players like Denzel Ward and David Njoku. They cannot be a playoff team. I don't think the bar is squeak in as a wild card and be happy that you're there at least. No, it is win a playoff game with how talented this roster is. If everyone is healthy in 2023, it will be an objective failure if they do not win a playoff game. I know that's a bit ambitious, but that's simply put how much they have invested into this roster. Not to make the playoffs, but to win in the playoffs. Watson had this to say, by the way, on going into year 2 in Cleveland. I know who I am, this organization knows who I am, and the guys that I play with know who I am. Everyone has their own opinions of what they want to say or how they want to judge last year. At the end of the day, I have an opportunity to go out there and prove what I need to prove in 2023. Now, there is no hiding around that Deshaun Watson was underwhelming statistically last season. He had some great plays, right? That Washington Commanders game definitely comes to mind in terms of extending plays and throwing a ball on a rope to Amari Cooper at the sideline. But still, 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions for what you gave up and paid for is not what you want to see in return. But I am not concerned about Deshaun Watson's poor 6 games or underwhelming 6 games, we'll call it, last year. Watson also added this to year 2. I'm definitely more comfortable this year. I have a vision that me, the staff, and this organization want. Last year, it was just a whirlwind, but it was a good learning lesson for myself and a chance for me to be able to grow. Coming in this year, I'm ahead of the game from where I was previously. You can expose me, tag me all you want in a couple of months, but I don't think you'll be able to because I'm calling my shot right now, and I've been saying it all off season long. Deshaun Watson will be a top 7 quarterback in 2023. I'm not even a coward, and I'm going to hide behind top 10. He will be a top 7 quarterback, and the entire NFL is going to get put on notice that these guys up in Northeast Ohio have an elite quarterback, one of the best, if not the best, pass rusher in the NFL, a certain player named Nick Chubb, and a lot of great assets spread around the ball. So this team is shaping up to be the best Cleveland Browns roster in team history. And I'm not afraid to say it out loud. I'm not nervous. They're going to live up to it, I hope. Now, Amari Cooper was speaking to the media, and he had this to say on playing with Watson. That's why we're here, to build more chemistry and continue to get better. I got to see Watson a little bit last year for sure, just playing in the games, then coming in and watching the film on Mondays. It's truly tremendous to see how he can create and extend plays. I'm excited to be healthy and just be out there working that scramble drill with him. Now, Amari Cooper, if you look at his stats from last season, on the left-hand side, you can see his stats before Deshaun Watson was eligible to play, and on the right are the 6 games with Deshaun Watson. Clearly, there was a bit of a drop-off, but of course he played 6 games compared to 11, but still, 368 yards from 21 receptions and 2 touchdowns in just 6 games. There is a lot to be excited about of what that relationship can be with a full offseason and going into the year, starting things off together and not picking things up in December. So if you believe in the Browns this season, then like this video, because I would love to see this be one of the most liked videos in channel history, just to show the Dog Pound is all in on the Cleveland Browns 2023 season. Now, I want to give some Twitter shout-outs to those of you who shared our previous video on Twitter and tagged me. Ray Bidding and MVP, as always here. Tony the Jackhole Pirate King. That's an all-time Twitter handle name. Shout out to you, Tony. We got Tim, we got Josh, we got Dustin. Thank you guys so much for sharing this video and helping us grow the channel. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. We're going to sign off and see you guys later with more Cleveland Browns news and rumors.